Well, just in time for Father's Day, a new book out this week touches on a son's struggle with addiction as a father relives his own past. Wrestling with Angels is the true story of an NCAA All-American wrestler turned fashion model and his shot at redemption. As his face appeared in ads around the globe, John Hanrahan had a shot to secure a spot on the 1984 U.S. Olympic team before succumbing to a lethal overdose of cocaine. Years later, after the champion wrestler became a father, his son developed an addiction to opioids and experienced a similar near-death experience.
And here with us now is the author of that book, Wrestling with Angels, John Hanrahan. John, welcome to Faith Nation.
Hey, thank you. So good to be here.
Well, John, tell us about the near-death experience you describe in your book and how you now are using all of your life experiences as a private trainer, former model, and a veteran world champion wrestler as a way to give hope to others as proof of God's mercy.
Absolutely. Thank you guys for the invite. Well, I was 25 years old and I was at a dark place in my life. Actually, it should have been a glamorous time. I was crisscrossing the globe, working in Paris and all the major fashion markets, Milan, Italy, and New York City. And all of a sudden I had succumbed to a deep addiction to drugs. And I found myself at a crossroads in my life. My family was very worried for me. They had tried to do an intervention. I was a little too proud to get the help that I needed. And I was at my wit's end, and I actually died from an overdose. It was administered by a physician who was an addict himself. He ended up in jail a month later in a separate incident. But it was a violent episode. My soul was ripped out of my body. I went to in front of the Lord. I stood in front of the Lord. I was in a divine place, and I was embraced by His love and His truth, and I was given another chance at life, and I've come back to tell my story.
Yeah, it's an amazing story. You know, the book is called Wrestling with Angels. John, why the title?
The title, Wrestling, I began as a wrestler in second grade, so it's always been a part of my life, and it connotates the struggle of our life. For me, wrestling has been kind of an avenue for me to heal and to find redemption. So really the sport itself helped me in recovery. And I've met so many angels and so many great people from the sport that I kind of pay homage to the great sport of wrestling.
John, we understand that your son went through a similar struggle with addiction. He is now sober 8 years now. Can you share some of the advice that you gave to him to help him throughout that journey?
Well, it was my son that really inspired me to really be honest and write this book. I couldn't write this book halfway. When I came back from my near-death experience, I knew that I had to convey and tell the stories to others, to give them hope, to give the thousands and thousands of people who have lost loved ones from addiction, from overdoses, to give them hope that God does exist. My son inspired me to tell my story, and he told me that me telling my whole story helped him in his recovery. But he's been an inspiration to me, and he wanted to share his part of the story. So it's a unique story of a multi-generation story of addiction, and it's a father-son love story. My father his prayers really helped me. I saw his prayers when I was crossed over to the other side, and God showed me the prayers of my loved ones, my family. And I'm here to kind of tell people that don't feel like if you've lost your loved ones that your prayers were in vain, because they are in a place of love, embraced by the Lord.
Wow, that's beautiful. So how did you find support, John, through your own family system in the midst of your struggles?
You know, I was really lucky. I grew up with a loving family, 6 brothers and sisters, and strong parents. And one of my sisters was a nurse, and she knew I was in trouble. My whole family knew I was in trouble. I mentioned that they tried to do an intervention with me, but I was too proud to take their help. And it took the Lord's divine intervention for me to finally get help. But they were there for me, and the Lord showed me their prayers and their concerns once I did cross over. The one thing I was able to ask the Lord as I stood in front of Him was to not to make my loved ones suffer for the rest of their lives. And then I found myself returned to my life. So I'm here to share with others my story.
Well, the book, once again, is Wrestling with Angels by John Hanrahan. John, it is so good to have you on today, and congratulations on your book. It's a great read.
Thank you so much, and happy Father's Day to all the fathers this weekend.